Hello, sweet friends. It's Sarah at Crochet with Coffee, and thank you so much for joining me for week 3 of our crochet along, where we are making our winter to spring blanket. So the portion that we are working on today are the surrounding portions of our flower. So our flower is in the center. We've got the center of our flower right here. All of these rectangles represent the petals of the flower. And then this week we are going to be making the 2 side rectangles that represent the leaves of the flower. So we've got that. I'll put up a full picture so you can see more of it. So this green here is going to be the leaf. And then we are also, along with that, capping it off on the top and the bottom with the neutral strip here. So that is just like a neutral color. That is going to be the transition between our winter portion of the blanket. So let's get started on the stitches for these 2 additions to our blanket. So the leaf rectangles on the side, and then we're going to have our transition pieces on the top and bottom. So let's get started on that. So this week we are going to be making 2 different rectangles. So these 2 that we are working on today are going to be framing this beautiful thing that we did last week. So you know we did our square on week number 1, we did our side rectangles on week number 2, and then we are going to be framing this lovely square today with a shorter, wider rectangle and a very long, thin rectangle. So those 2 are going to be added to the current square that we have, and we're going to be doing both of those today. So right now we are going to start on this one with the green. So let's go ahead and get started on this one. We are going to be starting with our ivory color. And with our ivory, we are going to do the same type of thing that we did with our last rectangle. And we're going to be measuring out a length of tail for starting our I-cord center, like foundation chain here. So we are going to be measuring out a length of about 90 inches. So I am always exaggerating the numbers that we're doing. So 90 inches is going to be much more than what we actually need, but it never hurts to have more if you need more. I would go more rather than less. All right, so let me measure out 90 inches here. Got 20, 40, 60, 80, and 10 more. So that is 90. Then at that point, I'm going to do my slip knot here. And if you don't want to do this I-cord type thing that we're doing, you can also do a chain, but just like I said last week, your spaces will be a bit larger when you're connecting down the center here. When you're connecting your 2 clusters across from each other, that space and the end space will naturally be larger spaces, and that is why we're doing this I-cord, to really avoid that. All right, so the way that you're going to hold your yarn here is you are going to keep the tail that you just measured in front, and the yarn that you have from the skein is going to be in the back. Now I have my skein over here on a cart, so that is why it's not seen, but it's coming from this direction, and my tail is over here. So we are going to start off with 73 of your I-cord stitches. So 73 chains is what you would be doing, 73 I-cord stitches, or whatever we're calling this, but for our base chain it is going to be 73. So go ahead and do that. And just as a reminder, if you are doing this cord, keeping the tail in the front, the yarn from the skein in the back, I'm holding my pointer finger between the two yarns, and I'm grabbing both of them with the rest of my fingers here. All right, so I am going to wrap my tail, the front piece, front yarn, around the hook like this, and then my yarn from my skein in the back forward around the hook like that. I'm going to pinch this bottom knot right here so that I can pull that loop through those two loops on my hook. Okay, and again, front goes up and back, the back one goes up and forward, and then just holding this chain here on the bottom, just pull that last loop that we looped through the two loops on the hook. Now keep this nice and loose so you don't have any puckering. So front to back, back to front, holding the chain and pulling through those two loops. Keeping it nice and loose. All right, so go ahead and do 73 of these, and I will meet back with you when we are ready for our next step. All right, once you have your 73 chains or 73 cord stitches, we are going to do a regular chain of 5, and that is going to be counting as our first double crochet and a chain 2 corner space. So that is chain 5. Now we're going to work the same way that we did our last rectangle. We're going to work in the section of the last stitch that we made of that cord and do 3 double crochets in there. Okay, so 3 right in between there. You can see I have 2 loops on that side, 2 loops on that side. So we're going right to the center of that cord there. So 3 doubles. Then we're chaining 2 for a next corner, and then 3 more doubles in that same space we just worked into. And same thing with our other rectangle that we did. We're going to skip 2 of those cord stitches and work into the next one. Just the same, you're going to be going into 2 loops. So on the back side there, you can see there's 2 loops there we're going to work into. So you've got front and back. We're just going to go through both of those. So just go right into the center of that V of our third. So there's 1, 2, 3, work into the center of that V. You'll have 2 loops on the front, 2 loops on the back of your hook, just to make sure you're in the center. And 3 doubles in there. And you're going to do that all the way across, just skipping 2, working in the third with 3 double crochets. So go ahead and work that all the way across to the end, and I will meet back with you when we are at our last stitch there. Our last stitch at the end. We are at the end of our row here, and you can see I have our last space is available because I'm skipping 2 and working in the third, and I am going to be doing 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets in this last space, just like we did in our last week's rectangle. So 3 doubles in that last space. Chain 2, 3 doubles in the same space. Chain 2 and 3 more doubles in that same space. All right, and then work this side just like we did our last rectangle. So we're working all the way across and working in the same stitches as we did the clusters across from us, and then work all the way down, and we are going to complete our last cluster. But just before you do that, let's make sure we have the correct amount of clusters. You're supposed to have 25 groups of 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 clusters on the one side. Then you're going to have your one cluster on the short side, and that's on both short sides here. And then we are going to complete our matching across from our 25 clusters. We will have another 25 clusters mirroring this side that we just completed. So let's work all the way across. I will meet you at our last stitch so we can attach this row to our first stitch. We're at the end of the row and we just need to finish this last cluster here. Remember, we have that chain 5 that counts as a double crochet and a chain 2 space, so we are just going to do 2 more doubles in that last space and then slip stitch into the chain 5 to complete this row. All right, so we are all done with this round here, and let's do our next row. We are going to do that with the same color, so just chain 5. And we're just working around the same way that we did with the other rectangle, just working our 3 double crochets to finish this corner here. Skipping over this cluster, working 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles in the corner, just like usual, like we've been doing for all of our corners. And then working your 3 double crochets into each space all the way across. And when you get to your corner, you're working the corners exactly the same. You're doing 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles. Then you're skipping over, working into your next corner, 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles, working your other side. And then when you come back around and meet up where you started this row, I will meet you there after you finish that off, and we will do our next color change. We're all set with our first 2 rows of ivory, and now we're going to add our next color. So we are going to end up doing 1 row of our cream, and we will be attaching our next color the same way that we've been doing throughout the other weeks. So any square or any corner you can attach to. And we're just going to do a slip stitch here, chain 5, and we are working in our corners, working 3 more doubles in that same corner space. And working all the way around like we have been doing for each space. We're doing 3 doubles each corner, 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles. So work around, do your remaining 2 double crochets in your last corner after you've worked all the way around, and then slip stitch into your chain 5, and then you can cut your yarn, and we will add our next color after you have completed your cream round. We've just finished our 3rd row, and the cream row is complete, so we're going to add a row of mushroom. And we're just going to do 1 row of that, just exactly the same way that we've been adding rows. And I'll meet back with you for our next color change. After you've completed your 1 row of mushroom, we're going to add 1 row of this green color called olive drab. and just attaching as usual and working around one row of this color, and then we'll meet back for our final row. We've completed our row of the olive drab, and now we have one last row, and that is going to be the camel color. And that is the same color that we are finishing all of our pieces with. So let's go ahead and finish one row of that, and I'll meet back with you just to recap. Our rectangle is complete. So you can tie in your ends. We need to make 2 of these in total. So go ahead and do that, and then I will move on to showing you our next rectangle for today's addition to our blanket. Now we're ready to start our next rectangle that is going to be framing our centerpiece of our blanket. So this one is very long and thin, and you can see it's got no extra colors. It's just going to be the creams and tans and brown colors. So let's get started on this one. We are going to be starting with our ivory color. And for this one, again, if you want to just work with a chain, you can do just a chain and then work into it that way. Or you could do the I-cord type of chain, and for that we are going to need about 150 inches. So I am just going to take my measuring tape and start measuring 150 inches of yarn in the ivory color. All right, that's about 150 inches, and then I'm going to do my slip knot. And again, we're going to be doing our tail that we just measured is going to be in the front, and the yarn from the skein is going to be in the back. So front tail wraps over the hook, holding it down with my finger, wrapping the back yarn from the skein up and over the hook, and then take that yarn through the 2 loops on our hook. Make sure to keep it nice and loose so it's easy to work into those stitches. Again, front piece goes up and over, back piece goes up and over. Pull that one through the 2 loops on the hook. And we are going to do 115 of these stitches. So I will meet back with you when we have 115, and we'll move on to our next step. All right, now I am going to start the rounds for this. So we are going to chain 5 just like we normally do, and start working around this cord that we just made. So chain 5, and that counts again as our first double crochet and our first chain 2 space. Now in between those stitches, so we've got our 2 loops. Let's see, 2 loops on one side, 2 loops on the other of the hook. You can see like that. Make sure that you have your yarn from your skein and not your tail. And we're just going to do our 3 double crochets. Okay, chain 2 for our next corner and 3 doubles into that same space. Okay, and just the same as we have been doing throughout, skipping 2 stitches, working into the 3rd with 3 double crochets. And you're going to work your way all the way across this chain here, just working in every 3rd. And then I'll meet back with you at the end of this side so that we can turn our corner and then continue the rest of the row. I'll be right back. And we are at the end of our row here, and I did my cluster and I have my 2 that I'm skipping and working into my last stitch there, last chain. And I'm doing 3 double crochets into that last chain there. All right, chain 2 for my corner, 3 more doubles into that same space we just worked into. Chain 2 more for our next corner, and then 3 more doubles into that same chain. All right, so we have finished our long side, finished our short side, and then we're going to work on our other long side all the way across to where we started. So now we're going to work all the way across this side, same thing that we've been doing, just working in the same chain that the current clusters are worked into. So go ahead and work all the way across this side, and I'll meet back up with you when we get to the end. All right, we are at the end over here. So again, just the same as every other row and every other tile that we have done. We're just going to put 2 more double crochets in that last stitch to complete our last granny cluster, and then slip stitch into that chain 5. All right, so we're going to cut that there. You should have 39 clusters all the way across this strip here. And we are going to move to our next row, and that is going to be the cream color. We're going to do 1 row of cream, and then we'll meet back with for our next color change. So again, just starting like usual, 5 chains here, and 3 doubles, skipping over those 3 doubles from the previous round. 3 doubles, chain 2, 3 doubles in the corner, and working in every space across with 3 double crochets. All right, so just work your way all the way around, and we'll meet back when we are ready to switch colors. We've finished up this row. Now we're going to do a row of the color mushroom. So just 1 row of this, and then we will have our last color. So I will meet back with you in just a moment after this one is completed. We're all done with our 3rd row. Now we have our 4th and final row, and that is going to be in the color camel. So finishing off this one, just like all the others. So just 1 row of this, and then our rectangle will be done. I'll meet back with you at the end of this row, and we'll recap real quick. All right, this one is all done. You are going to make a total of 2, so make 1 more of these. And then once you have your 2nd rectangle done and you have your other 2 finished that are with your green from earlier in this episode, tie in your ends, and we will attach these to our center square that we completed over the last couple weeks. So go ahead and finish up the 2 that you have with the green, the 2 that you have with the tan, and tie in your ends, and we'll be right back. All right, ends are sewn in. We are ready to attach to our, oh, there's an end that I didn't get. We are ready to attach to our centerpiece that we made the last 2 weeks of our crochet along. So let's get started on attaching them. So the first thing we are going to attach is one of our green pieces, the shorter one. The shorter, a wider one. And it can be on any side. It does not matter which side of the center square that you're going to be adding it to. So just pick whatever side you'd like. And now we're doing the same thing where we're putting right sides together. So laying that out. And we are going to start in one corner and work all the way across. If you want to put in some stitch markers along the way just to help you keep on track, you can do that, but I'm just going to make sure that I am following the way that I was telling you guys, just sticking my fingers through those spaces in between the clusters just to stay on track, because we are going to be attaching stitch for stitch across from each other. So we are going to attach that way. And we are using the outside color. So in my case, it is the camel color. And we're just doing the same thing, just making a slip knot. And we're going in the same as last week. You see the 2 chains of our corner, we're going in the second one. And on the other side, we are doing the same thing, the second one, and trying to stay in the back loop only. You can use the same joining method that you guys used last week, and whatever one that you have chosen is perfectly fine. It does not matter. Whatever you're the most comfortable with. All right, so then we're going to wrap around our yarn and go through those 2 loops from our squares and through the loop on our hook. All right, now we are going to do our slip stitches all the way across the squares or rectangles, and using the back loop only in my case, but whatever join method you would like, and just do a very loose slip stitch for this join. And just keep everything in line by keeping your clusters together. So putting your finger through the hole of the next space there is the best way I have found to keep on track with your stitches. So go ahead and work all the way across this side, and we will meet back up at the end where we are going to finish off. And I did want to just hop on here and remind you guys, when we are working over the seam of the squares that are joined behind, just to make sure that you are working into the remaining chain of that corner from the square on the back. And we're just attaching that additional chain into the last cluster here. So if you do want to do your stitch marker there just to remind yourself to do that, then that will also be helpful. So we're just going to work in that chain in the back, and I just joined it into the stitch that I just worked into of this post right here. And then the same thing, the next double crochet, I'm going to work in the loop there and then in the remaining chain from that corner. Do my slip stitch there. And then in my next cluster of that corner, I'm just going to make sure that gets lined up and work a second time into this stitch here, the top of that stitch, and the new stitch back here for the corner cluster. Okay, just make sure that you keep that in mind as you work across seams. All right, and then just staying in line, working stitch for stitch, keeping it all lined up, making sure that your 3 stitches stay aligned with the front and the back, being the same. And just continue working across your piece here, and we'll meet up when we get to the end. I've finished this row, and I'm just going to work into the first chain of the front and the back square. So front square chain, back square chain, just one of those chains from their corner space. So I'm doing a slip stitch there, chain one, cut my yarn, and sew in my ends. But this is what it's looking like. So then you are going to do the same thing. So take your other green panel and you are going to attach it on the opposite side of your square. So it's going to end up being the same thing. So you're going to have, looking at your center square, you're going to have a green panel on your right and a green panel on your left. So go ahead and attach that other green panel, and then we will finish framing in this square with our other panels. We're all done adding both green pieces on either side of the square, and now we get to add our long rectangles. So same thing as before, you're lining it up, starting on the green side over here. So match your corners up over here. Remember to go over your seams exactly the same way, picking up your second chain from either corner and making sure they get attached to your new piece, getting attached, and all the way across to the other side. So go ahead and attach this piece as well, making sure to have your pieces facing, your right sides facing each other, and then go ahead and attach that way. Now, once you have this piece attached all the way across here, now you're going to do it on the opposite side and add your second one to this side. So go ahead and do that. And then we will come back to take a quick look. All right, I am all done attaching both sides of the tan section here. So we have attached both green sections and both of the thin, just tan sections. All of those are connected. Now go ahead and weave in your ends, and let's take a look at the overall thing. We're just going to take a look of everything, step back and take a look at the big picture. So thank you so much for joining me for today's addition to our winter to spring blanket. I'm so glad that you're going along with me on this journey. If you had fun with me today, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you'd like to stick around for more yarn related fun, I post on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can hit that subscribe button and also click that little bell if you would like to be notified when I post new videos. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you find joy in the little things.